Last summer, I harvested over 40 kilos of tomatoes from just 4 plants. Same raised bed, same varieties, same sun as the year before, when I didn't even reach 14 kilos. The soil was the same, the seeds were the same. The only thing that changed was how I watered. And here's the part that surprised me. The mistake that was destroying my tomatoes wasn't too little water. It wasn't too much water either. It was something almost nobody talks about. If your tomatoes split right as they ripen, if you've seen that black leathery patch on the bottom of the fruit, or the lower leaves turning yellow and creeping up the plant, there's a reason, and it's not the one most gardening advice gives you. In this video, I want to walk through what is actually happening underground when a tomato plant is watered the normal way, why it leads to these exact problems, and what changes when you understand the plant's roots instead of just its leaves. And stay with me to the end, because there's a strange little trick involving a buried plastic bottle that turns out to solve most of this on its own. The first thing that changed everything for me wasn't a new watering routine. It was realizing that what I could see on the surface had almost nothing to do with what the plant was actually experiencing underground. The top centimeter of soil dries out almost immediately in the sun or wind, while the earth a little further down can still be holding all the moisture the plant needs. So a gardener glancing at dry-looking dirt and reaching for the hose is often reacting to something that isn't even true a few centimeters down. This is why the finger test tells a very different story than the eye does. Pushed a few centimeters into the ground, the soil can feel cool and slightly damp, like a wrung-out sponge, even when the surface looks bone dry. That's a plant that isn't thirsty at all, no matter what the top layer suggests. Pots behave the same way. A well-hydrated pot is simply heavier than a dry one, something you can feel more than see. Which means a calendar was never going to work anyway. The soil's actual moisture, several centimeters down, is the only real signal, and it very rarely matches what's happening on top. For 15 years, I watered every evening, a quick dose at the base of each plant, and I genuinely believed that was responsible gardening. The results told a different story. Every mid-July, without fail, split fruit, blackened bottoms, yellowing leaves working their way up the stem. For years I assumed it was the weather, or the variety, or the soil. It turned out to be the watering itself. A mature tomato plant is built to send roots 60 to 90 centimeters down in search of water. A light daily sprinkle never travels past the first few centimeters, so the roots never develop the reason to go deeper. They stay shallow, swinging between fully soaked and almost dry within a single day. That swing cracks fruit as it grows, and it interferes with calcium reaching the fruit properly, which turns out to be the real driver of blossom end rot, even in soil that already has plenty of calcium. Once I understood that, the fix wasn't more water. It was watering in a way that actually encourages roots downward. A slower, heavier soak every 3 to 5 days rather than a small amount every evening. Given time to sink in, that water reaches 30 to 45 centimeters down, right where the deep roots are waiting, and each time the surface dries out afterward, the plant is pulled a little deeper rather than staying shallow. There's a second factor that compounds all of this, and it has nothing to do with watering technique directly. It's what sits on top of the soil in between waterings. A thin decorative scattering of straw doesn't really do much, but a genuine layer, several centimeters of straw, shredded leaves, or dried grass clippings across the whole root zone behaves almost like insulation. It slows evaporation, keeps the soil noticeably cooler on hot days, and buffers the swings in moisture that cause so many of these problems in the first place. Grown side by side, mulched and unmulched plants tell the story clearly. The mulched ones needed less water, stayed far more consistent, and simply produced more. So the mulch isn't decoration, it's what makes the deep, infrequent watering approach actually hold. Without it, that same water disappears from the surface far faster than the roots can use it. Something rarely mentioned in watering advice is that a tomato plant's needs actually change significantly over its own life cycle. The same routine in June and August can produce very different results. Early on, right after transplanting, the root system is still small and can't reach deep water yet. The plant does better with slightly more frequent watering while it establishes itself. As roots lengthen, that reverses toward the deeper, more spaced out rhythm. Heat waves and heavy rain shift things further. A lot of tomato stress comes from a gardener sticking to routine right after a downpour has already done the watering for them. None of this is really about following a fixed rule. It's about recognizing that the plant's relationship with water changes as it grows, and the right amount is really a moving target that tracks the root system's own development. The last piece of this is probably the most interesting because it turns out the plant is communicating its water status constantly, and most gardeners just aren't reading the signal correctly. A well-watered plant has firm, deep green leaves standing upright in the morning. Afternoon. Drooping on a scorching day looks alarming, but it's usually not. And above 30 degrees Celsius, the plant partially shuts down to conserve water and recovers by evening on its own. The signal that actually matters is morning wilting, leaves still limp at 7 or 8 in the morning after a cooler night, when the soil should have had time to recover. That's the plant clearly indicating it went without water overnight. The opposite pattern, lower leaves yellowing while the soil has stayed wet for days, points the other way entirely. Too much water, suffocating the roots rather than starving them. Once you know what to look for, the plant essentially removes the guesswork on its own, and it's telling you exactly what's happening below the surface, well before it shows up in the fruit. This is the trick I mentioned at the start, and it came from an old market gardener who showed it to me over a decade ago. It turns out to be a strangely elegant solution to almost everything covered so far. The idea is simple: an old plastic jug with several small holes pierced through the lower third, buried near the plant with just the neck above ground. Instead of the ground receiving water directly, the jug does, releasing it slowly over hours, straight down toward the deep roots. What's interesting is how completely it sidesteps the problems from earlier. Almost no evaporation, no runoff, no water touching the leaves. It essentially forces the deep, infrequent watering pattern to happen automatically. The first season this was in place, overall watering time dropped by close to half, and the split fruit and blossom end rot dropped right along with it, not because anything else changed, but because the water was finally reaching the part of the plant that needed it. If there's one idea worth taking from all of this, it's that a tomato plant is a deep-rooted plant, not a house plant. And once that's understood, most of the classic problems, splitting, blossom and rot, yellowing leaves, stop looking like separate mysteries and start looking like the same root cause in different forms. That 40-kilogram harvest wasn't luck, and it wasn't a rare variety. It came from finally understanding what the roots were actually asking for